Chapter 2. The Long Dark. The transport ship was a needle of cold purpose stitched into the fabric of the void. It had no name, only a designation. EDV-77 Exodus Directorate Vessel. To Kalen Rook, strapped into a narrow acceleration couch in a dimly lit cargo hold-turned-brig, it felt like a coffin being fired into a sunless sea. The journey from Ceres to the outer system transit point had taken 3 weeks. 3 weeks of deafening silence punctuated by the mechanical sighs of life support and the occasional muffled conversation of the crew. He saw no one but the stoic agent, Seraph, who delivered nutrient packets and performed biometric scans with robotic efficiency. His provisional 500 CI had been activated, a number that now glowed in the corner of his vision when he accessed the ship's limited, wall-mounted data port. It felt like a brand. He'd spent the first week raging against the straps, testing the limits of his prison. The second week in a simmering, corrosive silence. Now, in the third, he had settled into a cold, analytical watchfulness. He studied every detail of the hold, the wear patterns on the deck plates, the faint harmonic vibration that crept in when the sublight engines adjusted course, the quality of the air, crisp, recycled, and utterly sterile, devoid of the fungal undernote of Ceres. This was the air of authority, of control. It tasted like the Aegis. The door to the hold hissed open. Seraph entered, not with a food packet, but with a simple gray jumpsuit and a pair of mag boots. "We are approaching the transfer point. You will change. We disembark in 1 hour." Rook eyed the jumpsuit. It was the uniform of a low-level technician, devoid of any insignia. "No Pioneer Services Black? I'm disappointed. I thought I was a valued asset." "Your value is perceptual, not ceremonial," Seraph stated, her photoptic eye gleaming in the low light. "Your identity aboard the Novum Avum will be that of a CI 500 Systems Diagnostics Consultant attached to security oversight. Your military history is classified to the project's executive tier." "A ghost with a number," Rook mused, unstrapping himself. His muscles protested, stiff from weeks of confinement. "And my handler? Will that be you?" "I am assigned as your liaison to Directorate Security. Commander Vance is your direct superior." She placed the clothes on a bench and turned to leave. "Seraph," he called out. She paused, a gray statue in the doorway. "On Ceres. You said the instability was called Romulus. Who gave it that name?" She didn't turn. "The designation originates from the original research team at Site Theta 77. It was found in the personal logs of Dr. Althea Vance, recovered post-incident. It is considered a morbid curiosity. The official project term is the Resonance. But you use the old name. I have access to the sealed archives. So will you, in a limited capacity. It is important you understand what you are listening for." "And what am I listening for?" The sound of something breaking. Finally, she half-turned, her profile sharp against the lighted corridor. "You are listening for the silence between the breaks, Major. That is where it lives." She left, sealing the door behind her. Rook stood alone in the hum of the ship, her words echoing in the hollow place the phantom pains lived. The silence between the breaks. He knew that silence. It was the silence in Chamber Omega after Chen's scream had been edited from reality. He changed into the jumpsuit. It fit with an anonymous precision. Looking at his reflection in a polished steel panel, he saw a stranger, a gaunt, sharp-faced man with eyes that held too much darkness, dressed in the bland garb of a cosmic janitor. Major Kalen Rook was truly dead. What remained was a sensor, a canary. The transfer was a study in seamless, soulless logistics. The EDV-77 docked with a larger Cyclopean transport freighter in the shadow of a small, icy planetoid in the outer asteroid belt. Rook was marched through sterile, echoing connecting tunnels, flanked by Seraph and another silent agent. He saw other figures in similar gray jumpsuits being herded in other corridors. Men and women with the hollow eyes of high CI specialists or the tense bearing of military personnel. The Exodus project was gathering its chickens, and the coop was a leviathan. The freighter, named CSV Perseverance, was a bulk hauler turned personnel carrier. Its vast central bay had been converted into a barracks for hundreds. Hammocks were stacked 5 high, personal space was measured in centimeters, and the air was thick with the smell of recycled sweat, anxiety, and ozone. This was not the clean, logical world of the Aegis's optimal planning. This was the gritty, human reality of a mass evacuation, cramped, tense, and smelling of fear. Rook was assigned a hammock in a dimly lit sector. As he slung his meager kit, the jumpsuit, a hygiene pack, the data chip from Reed still secretly sewn into a seam, a man in the adjacent bunk looked over. He was older, with the calloused hands of a structural engineer and a CI tattoo on his forearm that read 2811. "Fresh meat for the grinder, eh?" the man said, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Name's Gregor, fusion spine specialist. Or I was, before they decided my spine was better suited to bolting together this arc of fools." "Kale," Rook said, using the truncated alias on his new ident. "Systems diagnostics," Gregor snorted. "Diagnostics. So you're one of the guys who tells us why the wall is melting after it's already melted. Welcome to the party." He gestured around the bay. "Look at this. Best and brightest of the Sol system. CIs in the thousands. And we're packed in like ore samples. You know why?" Rook remained silent, following the man's lead. "Because out where we're going, there's no Aegis to allocate your cozy hab unit. No contribution index, just cold, hard survival skills. They're breaking us down on the way, making us remember we're just clever animals." Gregor leaned closer, his voice dropping. "They say the ship, the Novum Avum, it's not just a ship. It's a test, a final exam for the human race." Before Rook could respond, the ship-wide comm crackled. "All personnel, prepare for main engine ignition in 10 minutes. Secure all loose items. Acceleration will be sustained at 1.5 G for 12 hours. Medical support is on standby." A groan rippled through the bay. 1.5 grams for half a day was brutal, especially in a freighter not designed for comfort. Rook strapped himself into his hammock's acceleration rig. Around him, hundreds did the same, a symphony of clicks and muttered curses. The engines ignited. It wasn't the sharp kick of a military torch ship, but a deep, bone-grinding rumble that built until the weight settled on them all, a giant's palm pressing down. Rook's breath came harder. His old injuries ached. The bay fell into a strained quiet, broken only by the creak of the hull and the labored breathing of its human cargo. This was the beginning. The long plunge into the outer dark, towards Neptune, towards the secret shipyard, towards the resonance, towards Romulus. Hours bled into one another under the relentless pressure. Rook drifted in a semi-doze, his mind unspooling memories of different engines, different G-forces, the precise, controlled thrust of a Pioneer Services dropship inserting his team onto a rogue asteroid, the laughter of Corporal Ives over the comms, the calm, steady voice of Alara Vance, his commanding officer then, not his jailer. "Easy descent, people. Touchdown in 30. The memory twisted. The calm voice became the cold, logical tone of the Board of Inquiry. The dropship's interior became the unfolding flower of Sergeant Chen's chassis. Ives's laughter became the silent, screaming static in his neural feed. The phantom pain erupted, not as a spike, but as a wave. It washed over him, dragging him under. The weight of acceleration transformed. It wasn't pressure. It was a pull. As if the gravity were not holding him down, but sucking him towards a specific point in space, ahead of the ship. The deep rumble of the engines didn't just vibrate in his bones. It formed harmonics, a discordant, infrasonic chord that resonated with the scar tissue in his mind. And in that chord, he heard it. The silence. Not an absence of sound. An active silence. A null point that ate the edges of the engine's vibration. It was familiar. It was the silence from his dreams, from Theta 77. It was listening back. Romulus. The name wasn't a thought. It was a reflex, a terrified recognition. His eyes snapped open. He was drenched in cold sweat. The bay was the same, groaning metal, straining humans. But for him, the fabric of it had thinned. He could see the strain, not as physical stress, but as a shimmering, sickly aura around the load-bearing girders. He could see the collective fear of the hundreds around him as a faint gray mist coiling near the ceiling vents, being drawn towards the bow of the ship, towards the pull. He was perceiving the ship's structural fatigue and the crew's psychic energy not as abstract concepts, but as faint, visible phenomena. And something ahead was drinking it all in. You see it too, don't you? The voice, quiet and close, startled him. He turned his head with effort. In the next hammock, a young woman with close cropped hair and intense dark eyes was watching him. She looked pale, her knuckles white where she gripped her harness. Her CI tattoo read, 1445. A junior neural network analyst, if he guessed her specialty. See what? Rook managed, his voice tight. The flaw in the picture, she whispered, her eyes darting around as if afraid the walls would hear. It's like a smudge on a lens, right at the edge of everything. I've felt it since we passed Jupiter's orbit. It gets stronger when the engines cycle. She was trembling. They told me I had a latent perceptive acuity for pattern recognition, for the void drive diagnostics. But this isn't a pattern. It's an anti-pattern. Her words were a lightning strike. He wasn't the only one. The project had been conscripting others with perceptive acuity. They were building an entire flock of canaries. What's your name? He asked. Leah, she said. You're the one from Ceres, aren't you? The one with the history. What do you know about my history? Rumors. That you were at Silent Spring. That you came back. Different. That you're the reason they started scanning for people like me. She looked at him with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. Do you know what it is? The smudge? Rook held her gaze. He saw the same fragile, cracking sanity he saw in the mirror. It's the thing they're trying to outrun, he said, his voice low and gravelly. And we're the only ones who can hear it breathing down their necks. Don't tell the others. They'll think you're crazy. She nodded, a quick, jerky motion, and turned away, closing her eyes tightly. The 12-hour burn ended with a sudden, blessed release of pressure. The groans that echoed through the bay now were of relief. But for Rook, and, he suspected, for Leah, the true pressure had just intensified. The pull was still there, a constant, silent beckoning from the dark. Days passed in the monotony of the void. Rook kept to himself, observing. He saw the social stratification form instantly. The high CI scientists and engineers formed cliques, their conversations laced with technical jargon and an unshakable, almost religious faith in the Aegis's plan. The military personnel, identifiable by their bearing even in jumpsuits, were quieter, more watchful, clustering together. The conscripts, the lower CI perceptives, like Leah, were scattered, isolated, many of them showing signs of growing anxiety, jumping at shadows, complaining of headaches and nightmares. Seraph found him on the 4th day, near a lesser-used observation blister, a thick pane of composite showing the relentless starfield, bisected by the freighter's skeletal bow. You have been keeping your own counsel, she stated, coming to stand beside him. Not much to say to my fellow prisoners. They are not prisoners. They are pioneers. Rook barked a short, humorless laugh. We're all prisoners of the same equation, Seraph. The one that says our lives are acceptable variables to plug into the Aegis's survival function. He looked at her. How many others like me are on this tub? The ones who see the smudge? She was silent for a moment. 17 identified perceptives of varying sensitivity are aboard the Perseverance. You are the only one with a Class 5 rating, the only one with direct exposure. So I'm the control sample, he muttered, the one who's already been infected. He turned to face her. What happens when we get to the Novum Avum? Do you put us in a special room and ring a bell to see who salivates? You will be integrated into the security and science teams monitoring the Void Drive core and its related systems. Your perceptions will be logged, correlated with sensor data. You are an early warning system major, a biological fuzzy logic processor for phenomena our machines are blind to. And if my warning says the entire thing is a death trap, that the resonance isn't a byproduct, it's the purpose? Seraph's photoptic eye whirred. Then you will have fulfilled your function. The directorate will have valuable data. The coldness of it took his breath away. He'd known it, but hearing it stated so plainly was its own kind of violence. "And what's your function in all this, Agent? To babysit the doomed?" "My function," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "is to ensure that if the canary dies, its song is recorded before the gas kills the miners. I am not your enemy, Rook. I am perhaps the only person on this voyage who fully understands what you are, and what we are flying towards." For the first time, he saw something behind the flawless facade. Not emotion, but a profound, depthless awareness. She knew. She knew it all, and she was following her orders anyway. It made her more terrifying than any true believer. "How long?" he asked. "Until we reach the Neptunian staging zone? Another 9 days? Until the Novum Evum is ready for final boarding? That is classified." He looked back out at the stars, at the empty, infinite dark. Somewhere out there, a new silence was being built, a silence meant to swallow all their noise. And they were hurtling towards it, a freight car of hope and fear, with him, a broken man, as the lookout on the mast. The freighter plunged on, a speck of defiant order in the chaotic dark. And deep within its hull, Kalen Rook, the canary, felt the silence between the breaks grow wider, deeper, and more hungry with every passing hour. The long dark was not empty. It was waiting.